"What?" he exclaimed. 5 of the tanks carrying oil and gas exploded in the middle of the city. He felt a chill run down his spine. How many people are hurt? His face turned pale as he listened. This is horrible. So many lives lost and injured. On the same day, at Mrs. Jacobs' microfinance institution, chaos erupted. 10 robbers stormed in, waving AK-47s. Once upon a time, in a beautiful village full of bright colors and happy people, there lived a family called the Qualis family. This family had 2 children, Morife and Kilani. Morife was a very beautiful little girl, and Kilani was a handsome little boy. They were twins, and everyone in the village loved them very much. Mor and Kilani were like the sunshine in the village. People often said, "Look at those 2. They are gifts from the heavens." The twins were always respectful and kind. They helped their parents with small chores and played nicely with other children. Their parents loved them deeply and always made sure they had everything they needed. Mama and Papa Kwali worked hard so that Morife and Kilani never had to worry about anything. They wanted their children to grow up happy and safe. One sunny day, Mama said, "Morife, Kilani, come help me pick vegetables from the garden." The twins ran over, smiling. They loved helping their mama in the garden. Papa Kwali would come home from the fields and say, "My little helpers, thank you for taking care of Mama and the garden." The Kwali family was always together, laughing and sharing stories. At night, they would sit around the fire and Papa Kwali would tell stories about brave warriors and wise elders. Morife and Kilani loved these stories. They would listen with wide eyes and imagine the adventures. One evening, as the sun was setting, Papa said, "My dear children, always remember to be kind and help others. This village is our home, and we must take care of each other." Morife and Kilani nodded, understanding Papa's wise words. Life in the Kwali family was full of joy and love. The village loved the twins, and the twins loved their village. Every day was a new adventure, and every night was filled with dreams of wonderful tales. But little did they know their lives were about to change. A great challenge was coming, and the twins would need all their strength and love to face it. For now, they were happy, playing and laughing under the warm sun in their beautiful village. When Mor and Kilani turned 12, something very sad happened. One day, their parents, Mama and Papa, became very sick. The villagers tried to help, but Mama and Papa Kwali could not get better. They eventually passed away, leaving Mor and Kilani all alone. The twins were heartbroken. They missed their parents so much and cried every night. The village elders decided that Morife and Kilani should go live with their uncle, Chief Abasi, in a faraway town. Chief Abasi was Papa's older brother, and he promised to take care of the twins. The journey to Chief Abasi's town was long and filled with tears. Morife and Kilani were scared and sad, but they held each other's hands tightly. When they arrived, Chief Abasi welcomed them with open arms. "Welcome, my dear children," he said, hugging them warmly. "This is your new home." Chief Abasi's house was big and beautiful, with colourful walls and a lovely garden. His wife, Auntie Fua, was kind and gentle. She hugged Morife and Kilani and said, "You are safe here. We will take care of you." The twins were given a cozy room with soft beds and warm blankets. They were still sad about their parents, but Chief Abasi and Auntie Fua did everything they could to make them feel at home. They made sure Morife and Kilani had nice clothes, delicious food, and lots of love. Chief Abasi owned a big fabric store in the market. He would take Morife and Kilani to the store, and they loved it there. The people in the town admired the twins and often said, "These children are so special. They bring joy wherever they go." Chief Abasi's fabric store was the biggest in the market. It had every color and pattern you could imagine. Mor and Kilani loved spending time there, touching the soft fabrics and helping their uncle. They would greet customers with their sweet smiles, and everyone loved them. "Hello, welcome to our store," Morife would say with a cheerful voice. "Feel free to look around," Kilani would add, always polite and friendly. Soon, word spread through the town about the special twins at Chief Abasi's store. People believed that doing good for the twins would bring good luck and blessings. Customers started flocking to the store, eager to buy fabrics and meet Morife and Kilani. One day, a woman came to the store and said, "I heard that these twins bring good fortune. I must buy some fabric from here." She picked out the most beautiful cloth, and when she wore it, she felt happier than ever. Another day, a man came in and said, "Since I bought fabric here, my business has been booming. These twins really are a blessing." He bought even more fabric, thanking Morife and Kilani for their presence. Chief Abasi watched as his store became busier and busier. Customers filled the shop every day, and his fabric sold like never before. He was very happy and grateful for the twins. "Thank you, Mor and Kilani," he said one evening as they closed the store. One day everything changed. Chief Abasi's wife, Auntie Fua, fell very ill. She couldn't get out of bed and needed constant care. Mor and Kilani tried to help, bringing her water and sitting by her side. They loved Auntie Fua very much and wanted her to get better. Chief Abasi did everything he could to help his wife. He brought in healers from far and wide, but nothing seemed to work. Auntie Fua's illness grew worse, and one sad morning, she passed away. The whole household was heartbroken. The people in the town mourned her loss, and the market was closed for a day to honor her memory. Morife and Kilani cried a lot. They missed Auntie Fua's gentle hugs and kind words. Chief Abasi was very sad too, but he tried to stay strong for the twins. "We will get through this together," he told them, holding their hands. Not long after, another misfortune struck. Chief Abasi's son, AA, was climbing a tree when he slipped and fell. He broke both his legs and was in great pain. Chief Abasi rushed him to a healer who said that AA would need a lot of time and care to recover. The treatment was very expensive. Chief Abasi had to spend a lot of money to buy medicines and pay the healer. Slowly, his fabric store began to look empty. The beautiful fabrics that once filled the shelves were gone, sold to pay for AA's care. As the days went by, fewer and fewer customers came to the store. People in the town started to whisper, "Maybe the twins are bringing bad luck." Some believed that since Morife and Kilani arrived, bad things had been happening to Chief Abasi's family. One afternoon, a customer came in and said, "Chief Abasi, I'm sorry, but I can't buy fabric from your store anymore. Every time I wear something from here, something bad happens to me." Another customer nodded and said, "Yes, it's true. I've been feeling ill since I bought fabric last time. Maybe it's the twins. Maybe they bring bad luck." Chief Abasi was troubled by these words, but he didn't believe in such superstitions. "These are just unfortunate coincidences," he told himself. But the whispers in the town grew louder, and more people began to avoid his store. The once bustling shop became quiet and empty. Chief Abasi felt the weight of his troubles and didn't know what to do. Morife and Kilani noticed the change and felt very sad. They wanted to help, but they didn't know how. One evening, Chief Abasi sat down with Morife and Kilani. "My dear children," he said softly, "I love you both very much, but things are not going well. People believe that you bring bad luck. I don't believe it, but I need to do something to save the store and our family." Morife and Kilani listened with tears in their eyes. They loved their uncle and wanted to help. Chief Abasi continued, "I think it's best if you go stay with my sister, your Auntie Adana, back in the village for a while. Maybe then things will get better here." The twins nodded sadly. They didn't want to leave, but they understood. The next morning, Chief Abasi packed their bags and took them to the village. Auntie Adana welcomed them warmly, giving them hugs and kind words. "You are safe here," she said. "We will take care of you." As soon as the twins left, things began to improve for Chief Abasi. Customers started coming back to the store. They bought fabrics, and business slowly began to pick up again. The whispers of bad luck faded, and the store was filled with life once more. Chief Abasi was relieved, but he missed Morife and Kilani terribly. After a few months, when his business was stable again, he decided to bring the twins back. "Come home, my children," he said. "I miss you very much." Morife and Kilani were happy to return. They missed their uncle and the town, but as soon as they came back, misfortune struck again. Customers who bought fabrics fell ill or faced bad luck. The whispers started once more, and people avoided the store. Chief Abasi was at his wits' end. He loved the twins dearly, but he couldn't ignore what was happening. His business was suffering again, and he couldn't bear to see the store empty and lifeless. One evening, as he sat alone in the quiet store, Chief Abasi made a difficult decision. He went to his sister, Auntie Adana, and told her everything. "I don't believe the twins are bad luck," he said, "but I don't know what else to do. Can you take care of them permanently?" Auntie Adana looked sad but understanding. "I love Mor and Kilani," she said, "but I have noticed the same thing. When they are here, things go wrong. When they leave, everything gets better. It breaks my heart, but I think you're right." Chief Abasi and Auntie Adana came up with a plan. One night, they gave Morife and Kilani a sleeping pill to make them sleep deeply. Then, carefully and quietly, Chief Abasi carried the twins to his car. In the middle of a quiet, dark night, Chief Abasi drove the twins, Morife and Kilani, to an orphanage far from the town. The journey was silent, and tears rolled down Chief Abasi's cheeks. He loved the twins dearly, but he believed this was the only way to save his business and their future. When they arrived at the orphanage, Chief Abasi gently carried the sleeping twins to a small shed at the gate. He placed a note with their names and a brief explanation. He whispered, "I'm sorry, my dear children. I hope you find happiness here." Then, with a heavy heart, he drove away. The next morning, Morife and Kilani woke up to the sound of birds chirping. They were lying on soft blankets in front of a big building. Confused and scared, they looked around. Where were they? Where was Uncle Abasi? A kind woman from the orphanage named Mama Fair saw them and hurried over. "Oh my goodness, children, are you all right?" she asked gently. Mor and Kilani nodded, though they felt very sad and lost. Mama Fair read the note Chief Abasi left and understood. "Come inside, my dears. You are safe here," she said, taking their hands and leading them into the orphanage. Inside, the orphanage was warm and welcoming. Other children, some playing and some reading, looked up curiously. "Hello," a little boy greeted. "Are you new here?" Mor and Kilani nodded, still feeling unsure, but the other children quickly surrounded them with smiles and friendly words. "Come play with us," a girl said, handing Mor a toy. Mama Fair showed them to their room, which had 2 cozy beds and a window that let in lots of sunshine. "This is your new home," she said kindly. "We take care of each other here." Though the twins were still sad about leaving their uncle, they felt a little better with Mama Fair's kindness and the warmth of the other children. They joined in games, helped with chores, and listened to stories at night. As days turned into weeks, Morife and Kilani started to adjust to their new life. They made friends and found some joy in the little things. But deep down, they still missed their parents and Uncle Abasi. Sometimes they would sit by the window and wonder if they would ever see their family again. Mama Fair noticed their sadness and tried to comfort them. "I know it's hard," she said one evening as she tucked them into bed, "but you are loved here. We are your family now." The twins nodded, feeling the warmth of her words. However, as time passed, small misfortunes began to happen. It seemed like bad luck had followed Morife and Kilani to their new home. One by one, the other children began to get sick with mysterious illnesses. They would have fevers, coughs, and aches that made them stay in bed for days. The staff at the orphanage, who had welcomed the twins with open arms, began to whisper among themselves. "Since the twins arrived, things have been going wrong," one staff member said. Mama Fair tried to stay positive. "These are just coincidences," she said, but even she was starting to worry. One morning, Morife and Kilani were helping in the kitchen. It was their turn to wash the dishes. As they carefully washed and dried each glass cup, Kilani accidentally knocked over the stack. Crash! Every single glass cup shattered on the floor. The noise echoed through the orphanage, and everyone came running to see what had happened. The young female staff member in charge was very angry. "Look at this mess," she shouted. "All the glass cups are broken. How could you be so careless?" Morfe and Kilani felt terrible. "We're sorry," they said, tears welling up in their eyes. But the staff member was too upset to listen. She picked up a cane and gave them a few hard flogs. The next day, the staff member's hand swelled up painfully. She couldn't move it and had to go see a healer. This was the last straw for many at the orphanage. The head staff called a meeting. "Since the twins arrived, we've had nothing but bad luck," she said. "Children are getting sick, and now this. We can't keep them here." The other staff members agreed. "We need to do something before things get worse," one said. Mama Fur, who had grown very fond of Morfe and Kilani, felt torn. She knew the twins were good children and didn't want to believe they were the cause of the trouble. But the pressure from the other staff was too much. Finally, with a heavy heart, she agreed that something had to be done. The decision was made to chase the twins away. The next morning, while the other children were playing, a staff member called Morfe and Kilani. "Pack your things," she said. "You can't stay here anymore. We've had too much bad luck since you arrived." Mor and Kilani were heartbroken. They packed their few belongings and walked to the big tree in the yard, tears streaming down their faces. They didn't know where they would go or what they would do. They sat crying under the tree. Just as Morfe and Kilani were about to leave the orphanage with heavy hearts, something unexpected happened. A couple, Mr. and Mrs. Jacob, arrived at the orphanage. They had been married for a long time but had no children of their own. They had always dreamed of adopting and giving a loving home to children who needed it. As soon as Mr. and Mrs. Jacob walked into the orphanage, their eyes fell upon Morfe and Kilani, sitting under the big tree, looking sad and lost. There was something special about the twins that drew the couple to them instantly. Mrs. Jacob whispered to her husband, "Look at those beautiful children. I've always wanted twins." Mr. Jacob nodded, feeling the same connection. They walked over to the twins and knelt down to their level. "Hello, my dear children," Mrs. Jacob said gently. "What are your names?" Morfe wiped her tears and replied, "I'm Morfe, and this is my brother Kilani." Seeing their sadness, Mrs. Jacob's heart melted. "Why are you sitting here all alone?" she asked softly. But before the twins could answer, the head staff of the orphanage approached. "Mr. and Mrs. Jacob, welcome," she said warmly. "These twins are very special. They are just sad because they miss their parents." Mr. and Mrs. Jacob felt a deep compassion for the twins. They knew they wanted to give them a loving home. "We would like to adopt them," Mr. Jacob said decisively. "We've been looking for children to love and care for, and we believe Morfe and Kilani are meant to be with us." The head staff, relieved that the twins might have a new home, quickly started the adoption process. She didn't mention the rumors of bad luck because she didn't want to ruin this chance for the twins to find a family. As the paperwork was being completed, Mama Fair came to say goodbye. She hugged Morfe and Kilani tightly. "You are going to a good home," she said with a kind smile. "Be happy and know that you are loved." Mr. and Mrs. Jacob took Morfe and Kilani by the hand and led them to their car. The twins felt a mix of emotions, sadness for leaving the orphanage and their friends, but also hope for a new beginning with a family that already seemed to love them. On the drive to their new home, Mrs. Jacob turned to the twins and said, "We are so happy to have you with us. We will take care of you and make sure you are happy." Morfe and Kilani looked at each other and then at their new parents. They saw the kindness and love in Mr. and Mrs. Jacob's eyes and felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this could be the new start they needed. As they arrived at their new home, the twins were amazed by the beautiful house and the warm, welcoming atmosphere. Mr. Jacob carried their bags inside, while Mrs. Jacob showed them their new room. It was cozy and filled with toys and books. "Wow," Kilani whispered, eyes wide with wonder. "This place is so big," Morfe added, looking around. "We want you to feel comfortable and happy here," Mr. Jacob said, smiling. "This is your home now, and we are your family." Life with the Jacobs quickly became wonderful. The twins were enrolled in a top school, known for its great teachers and beautiful campus. Every morning, a driver came to take them to school and waited to bring them back home. This made Morife and Kilani feel very special. Mr. Jacob owned a big oil and gas company, and he made sure the twins had everything they needed. Mrs. Jacob, who owned a successful microfinance business, loved to spoil them too. They got the best clothes, toys, and education. The twins had never experienced such luxury before, but they stayed humble and grateful. "Why do you love us so much?" Kilani asked one night as they sat in the living room. "Because you are our children now," Mrs. Jacob said, hugging them both. "You make our lives complete." The couple couldn't have children of their own, which had always made them sad. But since Morife and Kilani came into their lives, they felt happy and whole. They even went to church to thank God for bringing the twins to them. As the twins' birthday approached, the Jacobs planned a big surprise. On the morning of August 1st, Mr. and Mrs. Jacob woke up early. They carried beautifully wrapped presents and tiptoed to the twins' room. At exactly 5 a.m., they started singing a happy birthday song. "Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you," they sang softly. Morife and Kilani woke up, their faces lighting up with joy as they saw their new parents singing to them. "Happy birthday, my sweet children," Mrs. Jacob said as they finished the song. "Now it's time for presents," Mr. Jacob announced with a big grin. He handed a pink package to Morife and a blue one to Kilani. "Go ahead, open them." With excited hands, the twins tore off the wrapping paper. Their eyes widened in disbelief. "A MacBook!" Morife exclaimed. "Thank you, Papa," Kilani shouted, hugging Mr. Jacob. "Wait until you see what I have for you," Mrs. Jacob said, handing each twin another package. As they unwrapped the gifts, their jaws dropped. Inside were the latest iPhone 16 Pro Max. "These are amazing!" Morife and Kilani shouted, hugging their parents tightly. "Thank you so much!" The rest of the day was filled with joy. Mr. and Mrs. Jacob drove the twins to school themselves. Once at school, Mrs. Jacob handed out biscuits and candy bars to all the children in the twins' class. The classroom buzzed with excitement. "Thank you, Mrs. Jacob," the children said, smiling and munching on the treats. During recess, classmates who had never spoken to Morife and Kilani before came up to them. "Happy birthday, Morife. Happy birthday, Kilani," they said, smiling. The twins felt a warm glow inside. They felt loved and accepted. "Do you want to play with us?" one of the kids asked. "Sure," Kilani said, grinning. "Yeah, let's play," Morife added, feeling happy. As the days went by, the bond between the twins and their adoptive parents grew stronger. The Jacobs cherished every moment with Morife and Kilani, and the twins flourished under their care. They began to believe that their bad luck was finally behind them, and that with Mr. and Mrs. Jacob, they had found their true home. Everything seemed so perfect. But one day, Mr. Jacob was in his office. Suddenly, his phone rang. He picked it up and his jaw dropped as he heard terrible news. "What?" he exclaimed. 5 of the tanks carrying oil and gas exploded in the middle of the city. He felt a chill run down his spine. "How many people are hurt?" His face turned pale as he listened. "This is horrible. So many lives lost and injured." On the same day, at Mrs. Jacobs' microfinance institution, chaos erupted. 10 robbers stormed in, waving AK-47s. "Everybody down!" they shouted. Mrs. Jacob was in her office when she heard the commotion. She peeked out and saw the robbers taking all the money. It was the day they were supposed to move money to a bigger bank, about $5 million. "No, no, no," she whispered in despair, tears streaming down her face. All that money, gone. That evening, Mr. and Mrs. Jacob returned home, their faces filled with sorrow. They didn't have the strength to see the twins. Instead, they went straight to their room and locked the door. "What could have caused this?" Mr. Jacob asked, pacing back and forth. "How did everything go wrong on the same day?" "I don't know," Mrs. Jacob replied, her voice trembling. "Why is this happening to us?" The next morning, a loud knock on the door woke the household. The maid opened it to find policemen. "We need to see Mr. Jacob," one of them said. The maid stammered, "Mr. Jacob is not awake yet." But she was interrupted by Mr. and Mrs. Jacob coming down the stairs. "What's going on?" Mr. Jacob asked. "Mr. Jacob, you are under arrest for mass slaughter," the officer said sternly. "It was an accident. The investigation is still ongoing," Mr. Jacob protested. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law," the officer recited. "No, leave him alone," Mrs. Jacob cried, grabbing onto her husband. The commotion woke the twins, who ran out of their room. "Daddy!" they shouted. "Why are the police taking you away?" Mrs. Jacob tried to calm them. "It's just a misunderstanding, my loves," she said, her voice breaking. "Everything will be all right. I'm going to bring Daddy back home." She kissed them and told the maid, "Keep an eye on them. Don't let them out of the house." The twins nodded, though their eyes were filled with fear. Mrs. Jacob grabbed her car keys, still in her nightgown, and drove after the police car. Tears blurred her vision as she called their family lawyer. "Meet me at the police station, now." She sped through the streets, her heart pounding. She didn't see the red traffic light until it was too late. A tipper truck smashed into her car, sending it rolling like a toy. Passers-by quickly broke through the car window and rushed her to the hospital. Do you want to know what happened next? Will Mr. Jacob be set free from jail? Will Mrs. Jacob survive the accident? Are the twins responsible for all these bad lucks? Find out in the part 3. Subscribe so you can be notified when part 3 is out. Thank you. We love you.